You can't go fishing, you can't mow your lawn, you can't buy seeds, you can't sit in your own car in the parking lot of a church. How many liberties are we willing to give up? And for what purpose? How does that make us safer, some of those things?
Well, obviously, no one in our country expected to be dealing with a crazy Chinese bat virus at this point in time. But in the wake of that experience, we have to have the spirit of a great American renewal. We have to understand that Americans have to be able to go outside again and interact with one another at safe distances with exquisite hygiene, but that we cannot fundamentally change American life. And my concern, Governor, is that particularly at the local government level, we're starting to see some real infringements on people's liberties, whether it's telling folks that they can't hang out in their own backyard, or even in some cases, municipalities have used Chinese drones and video surveillance to spy on people in their own backyards. Or how about in New York City, where the government was actually setting up snitch lines for neighbors to rat out other neighbors? I am so grateful that we have an attorney general like Bill Barr who wants to vindicate the rights and liberties of Americans.
There are some legitimate concerns about not only government overreach, but if we're using Chinese drones, don't we have some anxiety that that information is going to be sent right straight to the Chinese communist?
Well, if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's truly a wake-up call about our relationship with China. Whether it's the need to re-domesticate our supply chain, whether it's the need to pull funding from joint ventures like the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where they had our resources but then didn't share information with the world about the sequencing of this virus, or whether it is in fact Chinese technology in our country, deployed by Huawei or deployed by other Chinese companies in the form of telecommunications, or yes, even video drones. And so in dealing with and defeating the Chinese Wuhan virus, we should not invite China to have a greater role in our country, for us to be more reliant on China, or potentially to even risk a public health crisis becoming a national security risk.
The president appointed you to be on the Congressional Advisory Committee on reopening the economy. What are some of the steps that you're going to recommend that we need to take to get businesses up and running and people back to work? 26 million out of work right now. How do we start fixing that?
I met with the president this week and discussed recommendations that involved layering on opportunity for people to get back to work as soon as possible. I don't believe that every industry, every circumstance, every region of the country is going to deal with the same level of risk or the same acuity of disease. And so I think that empowering local communities to be able to reopen with the best medical advice is important. It's also important, Governor, that we use this as an opportunity to raise the standards for our healthcare capacity. I believe people will have more confidence to be able to engage in economic activity again if we see that we, in fact, have more ability in our country to have our pharmaceuticals made here, if we have ventilators that are made here, if we have more elastic capacity in our hospital systems to be able to respond if there are any flare-ups. I think those are the types of steps that give people confidence. And I think that as we begin to reopen, small doctors' offices, nurse practitioners, dentists, we'll continue to see that confidence build within the American people.
Congressman, before we let you go, Roger Stone was just with us in the segment before you. You were on The View and got criticized, big surprise, when you said you would support a pardon for Roger Stone. Would you still support one? And do you think the president will do it?
The president should pardon Stone, and I suspect he will. We've just learned in the last few days that our own government knew that the sub-sources of the Steele dossier that they were using were the targets of Russian intelligence, and that Russian intelligence was actually trying to use this process to discredit President Trump and discredit our election. Now that we know that the origins of this investigation were so deeply flawed, I think it's understandable to not have Roger Stone disproportionately carry the burden of the Mueller experience that we probably should have never gone through in the first place.
I agree wholeheartedly. My thanks to Congressman Matt Gaetz. You can follow him on issues that matter to you on social media at Rep. Matt Gaetz. It's on your screen. Visit his official congressional page at gaetz.house.gov.